All right, Mr. Fimian, we'll begin with you on this question. It's what's your position on voting representation in Congress for the residents of the District of Columbia? If you do favor it, how would it be achieved?
Listen, the founders were pretty bright people. They chose, for what reasons they have, to not have voting rights in Washington, D.C. The folks that live there know that. They can live there or they cannot, and it's their choice to live there. So I'm not in favor of tampering with the Constitution unless it absolutely must be done. It's unfortunate that they don't have the right to vote. There has been talk about adding a seat, of course, to Washington, D.C. and adding another seat somewhere else, because obviously the seat in Washington would be a Democrat seat. And so I guess out of fairness or whatever, people are talking about putting a seat in Utah or some other place where it would be a Republican seat. I mean, I don't know if it makes that much sense. Look, the fact is the part of Washington, D.C. That is in Virginia is now part of Virginia. Why don't we just make the part of Washington, D.C. that's in Maryland be part of Maryland? We'll just do it that way.
Well, again, if we'd been paying attention, you'd know that the bill to provide D.C. with a vote and Utah with a matching vote was introduced by my Republican predecessor, career politician Tom Davis. Giving D.C. voting rights is the right thing to do. In the 21st century, 600,000 fellow citizens have no voting representation in the Congress. They don't want to vote in Maryland. They are a unique identity. You can go there. It's not Maryland. And they're entitled to their own district seat. It is scandalous that the United States does not allow the District of Columbia to have a voting representation in the Congress, and it doesn't matter what party they are. It doesn't matter. We don't make decisions based on who gets a vote, based on what party they might vote for. It's the right thing to do. It's a matter of simple justice and equity, and it's an embarrassment all over the world that the capital of the free world has no voting representation in the House of Representatives.
Fimian, you care to rebut, or should we move on?
No, we can move on.
All right. Next question, and this one will begin with the Congressman. The wall of separation between church and state was a term obviously first coined by Thomas Jefferson to describe his reverence for the First Amendment religious freedoms. In each generation, our country is presented with some unique challenges to this treasured constitutional provision. A mosque near Ground Zero, an extremist group protesting gays at military funerals, an Islamic school in Fairfax accused of teaching hatred of Jews and Christians. Where do you draw a balance on these issues?
Well, with respect to separation of church and state, I think it's a very time-honored American tradition. It's what makes America great. You know, my opponent talked about Ronald Reagan referring to the shining city on the hill. And if we're going to be a shining city, we have to shine. We can't be afraid of somebody else's belief system in terms of religion. Everybody can come here and freely worship. That's why so many people came here, because they couldn't do that back home. They couldn't do that without persecution. If you look at the founders, many of them felt very strongly about that. They opposed the establishment religion in their colonies at the time. James Madison fought the Anglican Church, which was the established church here in Virginia. Thomas Jefferson believed so passionately in this that he actually wanted the freedom of religion clause on his tombstone, not that he was president of the United States. George Mason, who came right here from Fairfax County, helped write ultimately what became the Bill of Rights, and enshrined in that Bill of Rights the right to freedom of religion. So I don't favor any impediments to anybody wanting to worship as they choose, but I also want to make sure we remain vigilant and strict that the state never even be perceived as endorsing one expression over another. That's when our liberties are endangered.
If you wouldn't mind repeating the question
specifically, of course.
And thank you.
When talking about First Amendment religious freedoms, each generation, our country, seems to be presented with unique challenges to this constitutional provision, such as a mosque at Ground Zero, an extremist group protesting gays at military funerals, an Islamic school in Fairfax, accused of teaching hatred of Jews and Christians. So where do you draw balance on these issues?
We're a nation of rights, and people have a right to do what they want to do. The fact is the Muslims have a right to build the mosque in Manhattan where they'd like to. The guy that wanted to burn the Quran in Florida has the right to do it. Are either of these actions best? Well, the thing that I would simply advise is let's put ourselves in the other person's shoe. Let's ask ourselves how we would feel if someone were to do that to us. But as far as our rights goes, it's important that these rights remain and that we all have the ability to do with the freedoms that we've been given by our Constitution the things that those freedoms allow for. I think sensitivity, though, is called for in both of these cases that I've just mentioned. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer. I'm simply saying that if we work hard as Americans to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, we can find better ways to do things. One of the reasons that my Chief Operating Officer and my VP of IT and my in-house counsel have been with my company all for around 20 years is because I listen to them. I treat them well. We listen to our employees. We try to take their suggestions seriously. They like the fact that we take those suggestions seriously. It's simply a matter of charity, but what it results in is the running of a very good organization. I'm proud to tell you. I'm very proud of my company. I'm very proud of my people. It's the same spirit of cooperation and desire to solve problems not only amicably, but charitably, that I think should motivate us here with some of what's taking place with these rights issues. But folks, the rights are there. They have the right, both of these two examples I mentioned, the rights are there to do what they want to do.
Congressman, you care to rebut?
Well, I would just add that for 14 years I did land use here in Fairfax County as a member of the Board of Supervisors, and I did a lot of churches and a lot of synagogues and some mosques and temples. And I never asked whether I thought that religious expression was appropriate for that neighborhood, because I didn't think that was the right role of government. It had to do with land use. Could they meet the zoning regulations? Could they have the parking? Did they have the parking they needed? And could we handle the capacity on the surrounding roads? I think government needs to stay out of the question of whether a religious expression in a particular place is appropriate. I don't think that's our role in the public sector.
Yeah, and just to reaffirm, I agree with that completely. I wasn't suggesting somehow the government interject itself here and ask people to behave charitably toward one another. I'm talking about the groups themselves.